The ACC Women's Basketball Championship went to overtime. Who pulled it out? Two ACC men's basketball coaches have been fired. Could more be on the way? The ACC men's basketball tournament starts this week. We'll get you set up and plenty more coming up on ACC Nation Podcast, which you can find on YouTube, your favorite podcast platform, and streaming radio, and at accnation.net.
Let's get into who won the ACC Women's Basketball Tournament. Really exciting game as it came right down to the last couple of minutes. It's an overtime win on the part of whom?
Well, your ACC tournament champion is the Duke Blue Devils, who won in overtime 70-65 over Louisville. Louisville actually got out pretty good in this game. They were up 21-14 at the end of the first quarter, but Duke came back, made it a 2-point game at halftime. Louisville kept the advantage into the third quarter before Duke came back and tied it and set into overtime, where they ultimately prevailed. Really, story of this game, the free throw advantage is one of the things that really stands out to this. In this game, Duke was 18 of 26 at the free throw line. Louisville 6 of 9. Duke out rebounded Louisville 42-34 in this game. 18-13 second chance points edge. A lot of the ancillary things ended up in Duke's favor in the end, which if you watch this game, Louisville actually led for the vast majority of this game. But again, in the end, they just could not seal the deal, and Duke is your ACC tournament champion.
No, congratulations. And that tournament as a whole, a lot of very competitive games. I think we're going to see a lot of teams out of the ACC, the women's side going into the NCAA tournament. We're going to find out a little bit more about that before long, because the selection committee is going to be marking down who's going where and how and why. This is the thing that drives me crazy, Will. I'm looking at the NCAA women's tournament. It's April 3rd and 5th. That's the championship aspect of it. But it's like, man, that's forever. It's like, why do we take so long to get to that point? Or, maybe it all works out one way or the other. So it's all good, right?
It's the anticipation is what it is. Like, we're that close to the brackets and you just wanted to get here at this point. But patience, young grasshopper.
Hey, this is a good reminder for those of you who are into doing your bracket play. Capital One, as always, has their bracket, and you can go to ncaa.com and get into their bracket for both men and women. I think you can do it multiple times. I'm sure that's something that Will and I will be jumping on here before long as well to do, and just see how we fare through the entire thing. Hey, lots of coaches getting bumped out here. And as you and I were talking earlier, rightfully so.
Oh, 100%. The first one came out on Sunday morning with Damon Stoudemire being fired at Georgia Tech after just 3 seasons. And I think the one thing that really stood out through his tenure, his team just didn't play like offense. I was just looking at their effective field goal percentage on KenPom.
Mm-hmm.
In their 3 years under Damon Stoudemire, they were 260th, 210th, and this year 235th in effective field goal percentage. Now, as far as turnover percentage, 223rd, 198th, and this year 307th. The offense was not good enough for what, and they had a decent defense every year. Like, if you look at the metrics, their defense is actually above average, I would say, but they just really never had a bucket, I guess you could say. And that's the reason why he is gone.
No, it's just that simple. As I pointed out, it seems like, for every athletic director that they've had, we've gone through another coach on the basketball side. And I guess, maybe we're going to go through the same thing here. I'm hoping that, Georgia Tech has not wrapped itself up in financial bind where they're paying off these ex-coaches still. And maybe they've got some NIL money there that's going to help them out in maybe pulling in somebody who's going to make a change there at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen one name so far that has been associated potentially with the job, and that is Scott Cross, who uh is at Troy. He just took them to the NCAA tournament last season, actually won 20 games again with them this season. He's done a really good job there, turning down a pretty bad Sun Belt program, and but like I say, he's the one name I've seen to this point that has been mentioned with the Georgia Tech job. I honestly have not really dug too deep into this coaching
Yeah.
search, but just in doing some social media looking around, I did see his name attached to it.
A little early yet. I think, we could, a lot of it's just conjecture as usual at this point. Let's go on to our next one. Boston College. This is not a surprise. It really isn't. And, he started out on the right foot, and it almost seemed like maybe something was going to happen here. And then it just went flat.
Hmm. Yeah, Earl Grant fired at Boston College in a move that just needed to be done. You mentioned, yeah, there was early improvement. I mean, when the year before Earl Grant took over, Boston College was 4-16. This was in the year after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then he took over in the 2021-20. They went 13-20. Okay, you see the improvement. Then they went 16-17. And you saw improvement. And then in the 23-24 season, they won 20 games. They went to the NIT with, guys like Quentin Post, who's been in the NBA, Jaden Zachary, they had David McLaughlin and Clyde Harris. But these last 2 years are the reason he is fired because they've just fallen off to 12-19 last year and 11-20 this year. And it's not just the record, it's the bad losses. I mean, so many quad three and quad four non-conference losses. I just have this year's schedule up by chance. They lost to Central Connecticut at home, ranked 306th on Kim Palm. Tulane ranked 210th in Ken Palm. You go back to last season, they lost to Dartmouth, ranked 203rd in Ken Palm. I mean, they've had these kind of losses, at least one a year, just about every year under him, under Earl Grant. And a lot of the issues that the team has had were similar to Boston College or Georgia Tech in that they couldn't score on a consistent basis. And the defense wasn't bad, but again, when you don't really have the talent, you can only go so far with it.
Exactly.
And it was just kind of a weird hire to begin with because I felt like he had no steam in him as he came into Boston College, and like I said, he had the one good year mostly because he had Quentin Post, but outside of that, whole lot of
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, that was a real shot in the dark from the standpoint of a hire. I mean, it was sort of like, oh, well, giving this young and upcoming coach an opportunity, and maybe he'll be able to make something of it, but didn't happen. Um,
Yeah,
now,
and that was what you were saying there, Jim. Just kind of to follow up on that, they had the year before Earl Grant was hired, or he was at Charleston. They were 9-10. They were just mediocre at best, and that's apparently what caused that guy was good enough for the Boston College administration to hire him. And
yeah,
I think that, and I quite frankly, I think there are other issues with that school beyond the athletic department, but that's neither here nor there for this.
yeah, just nuts and bolts. It comes down to this, and we always preach this. It is sports has got to be run. College sports has got to be run like a business now. If you don't run it like a business, you're going to have failure. Now, how long will people put up with failure? Not
I
long.
mean, especially nowadays, because of the transfer portal,
Yep.
they expect more success out of you. And not every coach is going to have the year one turnaround like Ryan Odom or Jay Lucas did. It's not always going to be possible. There is going to have to be some give in that. But again, you there Boston College should be doing more. I mean, I don't think they've been to the NCAA tournament in close to 20 years at this point.
That's got to stop, and only you know, only you can prevent forest fires, okay, or light one. So maybe you should light something up underneath of somebody there and get it going. The other person that we talked about between ourselves was the performance of Jeff Capel at Pitt has just been pitiful. Uh,
Eh,
and I think I think Capel is capable. There's another pun for you.
eh.
It's just Pitt doesn't seem to have their head in the right place for their athletic department. It's just that simple. I don't ever get the feeling that other than one or two things that they're doing right, that they really are in any game in any sport. And it's kind of crazy because that school ought to be cranking out championships on a fairly regular basis, or at least be very competitive. Ought to be in the top five competitive wise in every sport. Now, volleyball, they've done fabulous over the last couple of years, but volleyball is not a revenue generating sport at that level. And you can only go so far with that, right? So the
Mhm.
question is, and like I said, I've seen a lot of this on social media now. It's like, okay, um, people are calling out the folks at Pitt to say, hey, maybe we need to have a conversation. We're seeing all this activity at these other two schools. Maybe we need to have a sit down conversation with Jeff and see where things are going with this program. I mean, do you
Mhm.
think he is on a hot seat?
Absolutely. And kind of similarly to Earl Grant, this in the way that the last 2 years have been what are going to be the difference of whether or not they keep, whether he loses his job. You remember they went to the NCAA tournament in 2023, made the first four, won that game, and then beat Iowa State in the first round before losing to Xavier. And then the following year, he in the 23-24 season, he won 22 games, but they didn't make the NCAA tournament then. And then the last 2 years, 17 and 15, a team that started out 12 and 2 at one point, and
Mhm.
then went eight and then yeah, they were 5 and 12 to close the season. And this year, they really never could get it going. They lost at home to Quinnipiac right before Thanksgiving. They lost to, a Hofstra team that's not bad, but they're top 100 in Kent Palm, but still, you should be beating those teams. I mean, they were finished 5 and 13 this season in ACC play and needed overtime, a win over Syracuse to get to the ACC tournament.
Yeah,
If they would have lost that game on Saturday against Syracuse, they would have missed the ACC tournament altogether. And we were probably talking about Jeff Capel being fired today
you're right.
and Earl Grant being fired on Tuesday.
Yeah. So that's something that we need to keep our ear to the ground and see what's going on there. In regard to that one loss that you just mentioned, the team, political junkies may enjoy this pun. So Quinnipiac polled them. Now,
You got all the puns
I'm
tonight.
telling you, man, they're horrible and they're just rolling out, and there's going to be more without a doubt. All right, let's talk about something uh, much more entertaining than my puns. The men's basketball bracket for the ACC. This is some interesting matchups right up front. First round. You're talking about. Pitt. So let's get into that. I don't know if you've got that in front of you, the bracket in front of you.
I
Um,
do.
okay, excellent. So let's talk about that first game, which is at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, March 10th.
Yeah, the first game of the ACC tournament, 2 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday, is going to be Stanford and Pitt. That winner of that game will take on NC State on Wednesday. That'll be the noon tip. Stanford really came on to close the season. They they actually have put themselves kind of in the NCAA tournament, like the deep dark like end of the NCAA tournament bubble because all these teams on Saturday who were on the bubble lost, and it's kind of bringing a team
Crazy.
uh like Stanford into the mix, a team that's won 6 of 8, has finished the season 20-11 on the season. The only reason they're really not in NCAA tournament mix is because they have some bad losses on their resume. They lost at home to Seattle University in November, again right before Thanksgiving, and then they have a bad loss at home to UNLV. So, and then they lost to a bad Notre Dame team as well, amongst others, and to Wake Forest. So they do have some bad losses on their resume. That's probably the only reason they're not in it. But yeah, again. Uh, Stanford pitched your first game. Your second game is SMU and Syracuse on at 4:30. SMU went from a team that about a week ago, a little over a week ago, was probably in the 8-9 game.
Yeah.
Now may very well be on the outside looking in when Selection Sunday comes upon us. They have to win. No ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, if they want to be stay in the bubble at least.
Yeah.
And then the third game on Tuesday is Virginia Tech Wake Forest. Again, the Hokies on the outside looking in again at the NCAA tournament bowl. They did announce Mike Young will be back for next season. Again, if Virginia Tech has any chance of at least being considered, they got to win that game.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I think that unless something happens, and you know how the ACC tournament is, it's like anybody's game, really, especially when you start out. But it strikes me that after that Stanford Pitt game, we're going to know definitively where somebody coaching wise stands. I'm a little confused about both SMU and Syracuse. Their performance this year has, I don't know, they both just dropped off the face of the earth there for a while. And
Yeah, and Red Autry, someone who very well may be out of a job once Syracuse's season ends as well.
that's very possible. I know that, Coach Young really expressed himself. uh, I get it. He's frustrated. He's extremely frustrated with how things are not coming together at Virginia Tech. And it was nice to see the school extended him because, quite frankly, I think he's a hell of a good coach. I don't know what's happening there or not happening for a variety of reasons. And when it comes down to Forbes at Wake Forest, there's another situation where I think Steve Forbes is a great coach too. Uh, you know, you kind of shrug your shoulders and go, oh, okay, whatever. Um,
Yeah, and they've had good guards and they've had opportunities to go to the tournament, but once they hit February for some reason, they just start to
it
falter.
just, yeah, they tank so bad. Hey, also second round action, number 8 seed FSU is going to take on number 9 Cal. So that should be an interesting matchup there. I mean, Cal has been sort of coming on strong, and FSU is certainly um, it's they're rising from the ashes. So it's
Yeah.
kind of neat.
Yeah, again, Cal's a team that's been on the outside of the bubble, um, a team that's had opportunities to play its way onto the bubble or on the right side of the bubble, but have taken bad losses. Remember, they lost to Wake Forest, the team,
Mhm.
right after they've had a couple bad losses recently, and then Florida State. This is the team to watch. I mean, I was
Yeah,
looking at it yesterday, and I think Bart Torvik had them playing at about a top as one of the like top 40 team over the last month of the season. They are play Luke Laux has done a really good job of turning that program around. I mean, it was obviously off to a very slow start, but he started to figure things out. And if they can if they can get by Cal, given the fact that I think Duke is probably going to sit Pat Gamba, and maybe there was one, I think Caleb Evans, I believe it was, he might sit for the ACC tournament because they're both a little banged up.
Right.
Florida State could be the one to watch to make a run. Somebody always makes a run in in the ACC tournament. And
Yeah.
if Duke is setting players and waiting for the NCAA tournament, that could be a spot where you could see some chaos.
Yes. And that's what makes that tournament so much fun. The buys, and they're not going to be playing until the quarterfinals, include number 1 seed Duke, number 2 seed Virginia, number 3 seed Miami, number 4 seed North Carolina. I would have never envisioned that lineup, those seeds that way at the beginning of the season.
No, no way. I went back and looked at my preseason predictions right after the Carolina Duke game last night, and
Mm-hmm.
I had obviously I had Louisville winning the league. That didn't happen. I had Duke second. They obviously won the league. I think I had NC State third, and they finished as the what did they finish as the 7th seed? And then I had Virginia fourth, and they finished second. So, and there were a couple teams like I had Notre Dame like 7th or 8th, and that was a big time miss. But yeah,
Yeah, let's talk about Notre Dame for just a second, because there's another coach that we have sort of bandied about that probably ought to be sitting on a hot seat.
hmm yeah, he is. It is has not happened in the 3 years Micah Shrewsbury's been in at Notre Dame. He was 13 and 20 in year one. He was 15 and 18 in year two, and this year he was 13 and 18. And I know he lost Marcus Burton, 10 games for the season with an injury, but you still lost at home to Purdue Fort Wayne right before Christmas, and you still had some solid players on the team, and they just could never get it done. They finished 4-14 in the league. They were 10-4 on December 30th, and ended up 3-14 the rest of the way.
Hey, join us on social media, your favorite platform, whether it be X, on TikTok, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We're also on Mastodon, LinkedIn, Blue Sky. Go on down a long list. You can find them all, and the links to them at accnation.net. Make sure that you check out Will. He is very heavily on TikTok and has a lot of great stuff, not only for us, but also his own thing, which he's got going on there. He's talking about a lot of different sports and a perspective that I think you're going to enjoy it, to be honest with you. So make sure that you follow him, follow us on TikTok. Hey, real quickly, baseball top 25, the ACC teams that are in that top 25. This is D1 baseball, by the way. Number 5 is Georgia Tech, and number 8 is North Carolina. 13, NC State. 14, Clemson. 15, Wake Forest. At 20, Florida State. And number 24, Miami. One of the teams that I might note that was a preseason favorite that's not in there is Virginia. However, if we go over to the D1 softball top 25, we will find Virginia. At number 10, it's Florida State. At number 11, Virginia Tech. Number 16, Virginia. And number 20, Stanford. So teams doing very well in those two sports. And there's a lot of other sports, too, that are going on. And you can find out a lot more about that, not only here in your favorite platform, whether it be YouTube, our podcast, or on streaming radio, or go to accnation.net.